The lecture hall at Northern State University held 200 students, but Professor David Caldwell only had eyes for one. Emma Richardson sat in the third row, taking notes on his medieval literature course, unaware that her professor had been photographing her through the classroom window for 3 months. What started as an obsession would escalate into kidnapping, attempted murder, and a conspiracy that reached into the darkest corners of the dark web. On March 15th, 2024, Emma Richardson disappeared from the university parking garage at 9:47 p.m. Security cameras captured her walking to her Honda Civic after her evening study group, but she never made it home to her apartment. Her car was found running with the driver's door open and her backpack scattered across the concrete floor. 8 hours later, a ransom demand arrived in Emma's parents' email. $1 million in cryptocurrency for their daughter's safe. Return. The message included a photograph of Emma, bound and blindfolded, sitting in what appeared to be a basement or storage room. The digital fingerprints on the photo would lead investigators to a professor who had crossed every professional and moral boundary. But this was not a simple kidnapping for money. Professor Caldwell's plan involved far more than ransom payments. Hidden in the encrypted files on his university computer were detailed blueprints for a permanent prison he had constructed in his basement, complete with soundproofing, security cameras, and restraint systems. Emma Richardson was never meant to go home. The investigation would reveal that Caldwell had been planning Emma's abduction for 8 months, using his position of trust and authority to gather personal information about her daily routines, family, finances, and living situation. His academic credentials had provided the perfect cover for a predator operating in plain sight. Northern State University sprawled across 400 acres in rural Montana, serving 12,000 students in a town where the university was the primary employer. The English department occupied Sterling Hall, a 3-story brick building where Professor David Caldwell had taught medieval literature for 15 years. His office on the second floor overlooked the main campus quad where students gathered between classes. Caldwell, 52, held a Ph.D. from Columbia University and had published 3 academic books on medieval poetry. Colleagues described him as reserved and scholarly, someone who preferred books to social interaction. He lived alone in a Victorian house 2 miles from campus, having never married and maintaining few close relationships outside his academic work. Emma Richardson, 20, was a junior English major from Denver, Colorado. She had enrolled in Caldwell's Medieval Literature Survey course during the fall 2023 semester as part of her degree requirements. Emma maintained a 3.8 GPA while working part-time at the campus bookstore to help pay for her education. Her parents, both teachers, had saved for years to afford her tuition. The university environment provided numerous opportunities for professors and students to interact. Caldwell held regular office hours, led study groups, and encouraged students to discuss their academic interests. Emma had visited his office twice during the semester to discuss paper topics, interactions that would later be revealed as the catalyst for his obsession. Campus security at Northern State consisted of 12 officers patrolling the grounds and down, monitoring surveillance cameras in key locations. The university had experienced only minor crimes in recent years, primarily theft and vandalism. The rural setting contributed to a sense of safety that would prove to be dangerously misleading. Emma Richardson left her apartment at 7:15 p.m. on March 15th to attend a study group for her Victorian literature class. The group met in the campus library's conference room and concluded at 9:30 p.m. Security cameras recorded Emma walking across the quad toward the parking garage where she had parked her 2019 Honda Civic. The parking garage served the library and academic buildings, staying open until midnight during the school week. Emma entered the garage at 9:44 p.m. according to the Timestamp on security footage. The cameras showed her walking toward her parking space on the second level, talking on her cell phone with her roommate about weekend plans. At 9:47 p.m. The security cameras captured a figure in dark clothing approaching Emma from behind as she reached her car. The attacker wore a ski mask and carried what appeared to be a taser or similar electronic device. Emma's phone call ended abruptly, and she collapsed beside her vehicle after being struck with the device. The attacker moved quickly to load Emma's unconscious body into the back of a white cargo van parked nearby. The entire abduction took less than 90 seconds from first contact to driving away. The van's license plate had been obscured with mud, and the driver wore gloves and a mask that concealed all identifying features. Campus security discovered Emma's abandoned car at 10:15 p.m. when a security guard noticed the running engine and open door during his routine patrol. Her backpack lay scattered across the ground with books, papers, and personal items spread in a wide radius, suggesting a struggle had occurred. Emma's roommate contacted campus police at 10:45 p.m. when Emma failed to return home and stopped answering her phone. The initial missing person report triggered a campus-wide search that included local law enforcement, university security, and volunteer student groups. The search revealed no additional clues about Emma's whereabouts. The Cascade County Sheriff's Department assumed control of the investigation at 11:30 p.m. when the evidence clearly indicated a criminal abduction rather than a missing person case. Detective Sarah Mitchell arrived on scene and immediately recognized the professional nature of the crime based on the speed of execution and lack of physical evidence. The first ransom demand arrived at 6:15 a.m. on March 17th, sent to Emma's parents through an encrypted email service. The message demanded $1 million in Bitcoin cryptocurrency and included specific instructions for creating a digital wallet and transferring funds. The email contained a photograph of Emma tied to a chair in an unidentified location. The ransom photo showed Emma wearing the same clothes she had worn to the study group, confirming the image was recent. The background revealed concrete walls and minimal lighting, suggesting she was being held in a basement or warehouse. Digital analysis of the photo would later provide crucial evidence about the location and timing of the image. Enforcement established a command center at the University's administrative building to coordinate the search and investigation. The FBI joined the case due to the interstate nature of the crime and the use of digital currency in the ransom demand. Special Agent Jennifer Torres led the federal response while working closely with local authorities. The investigation team implemented phone taps on the Richardson family's communications and began monitoring cryptocurrency exchanges for any transactions matching the ransom amount. The Digital Forensics Unit analyzed the ransom email's metadata and routing information to trace its origin. Emma's parents contacted the media on March 18th, making public appeals for their daughter's safe return. The story attracted national attention due to the university setting and the substantial ransom demand. The publicity generated hundreds of tips from the public, though most proved to be false leads or speculation. Detective Sarah Mitchell began her investigation by interviewing Emma's friends, roommates, and professors to establish her daily routines and identify potential suspects. Emma's social circle described her as responsible and predictable, someone who rarely deviated from established patterns. Her roommate provided detailed information about Emma's class schedule and work commitments. The detective's examination of campus security footage revealed the white cargo van had entered university property at 8:45 p.m. through the north entrance. The vehicle had circulated through campus for over an hour before positioning itself in the parking garage. The driver appeared familiar with campus layout and security camera locations. Mitchell discovered that the van used in the kidnapping had been reported stolen from a construction company in Billings 3 days before Emma's abduction. The theft had occurred during nighttime hours, and the perpetrator had disabled the vehicle's GPS tracking system before driving away. The van was later found abandoned in a rural area 40 miles from campus. The investigation revealed that Emma had been receiving anonymous gifts and notes for several weeks before her disappearance. Her roommate found flowers, chocolates, and handwritten poems that had been left outside their apartment door. Emma had assumed the items came from a secret admirer among her fellow students. Detective Mitchell's analysis of the anonymous gifts led to a breakthrough when handwriting. Experts compared the poems to writing samples from Emma's professors and university staff. The handwriting matched samples from Professor David Caldwell's grade book and administrative documents stored in the English department office. The detective obtained a search warrant for Caldwell's home and office on March 20th. The search of his university office revealed hundreds of photographs of Emma taken with a telephoto lens from various locations around campus. The photos dated back to September 2023, showing Emma walking to class, studying in the library, and eating in the dining hall. Caldwell's home computer contained extensive files about Emma's personal life, including her class schedules, work hours, family background, and financial information. He had researched her parents' income, her student loan debt, and her family's social media accounts. The digital investigation revealed months of systematic stalking and information gathering. The basement of Caldwell's house had been converted into a sophisticated prison cell with reinforced walls, multiple locks, and surveillance equipment. The room contained a bed, toilet facilities, and food storage, suggesting it had been designed for long-term captivity. Construction materials found in the basement matched the background visible in the ransom photograph. DNA evidence collected from Caldwell's van and basement matched samples taken from Emma's abandoned backpack and car. Hair fibers found in the basement were consistent with Emma's hair color and length. Fingerprints on the surveillance equipment matched Caldwell's prints on file with the university. The investigation uncovered Caldwell's cryptocurrency accounts and digital wallets used to receive ransom payments. Financial records showed he had been researching cryptocurrency, trading, and anonymous transaction methods for 6 months before the kidnapping. He had created multiple fake identities to open the digital accounts. Detective Mitchell discovered that Caldwell had taken a leave of absence from the university on March 16th, claiming a family emergency required his immediate attention. He had arranged for substitute instructors to cover his classes and had informed colleagues he would be unreachable for several weeks. The timing coincided perfectly with Emma's disappearance. Phone records revealed Caldwell had been monitoring Emma's location through a tracking app he had secretly installed on her phone during an office visit in February. The app required physical access to the device, which Emma had left unattended while visiting the restroom during their meeting. The tracking data showed Emma's movements for weeks before the abduction. The investigation team traced Caldwell's movements through credit card transactions and cell phone tower data. He had purchased supplies for the basement prison room over several months, including soundproofing materials, locks, and surveillance equipment. The purchases were made at different stores across 3 counties to avoid detection. The investigation took a shocking turn on March 22nd, when FBI agents discovered that Professor Caldwell had not been working alone. Digital forensics analysis of his computers revealed communications with a network of individuals involved in human trafficking and kidnapping operations across the country. Caldwell had been participating in online forums dedicated to abduction fantasies and criminal planning. The most disturbing revelation came from encrypted chat logs found on Caldwell's hard drive. He had been in contact with Marcus Brennan, a convicted felon living in Oregon who had served time for kidnapping and assault. Brennan had provided detailed advice on abduction techniques, captivity management, and methods for avoiding detection by law enforcement. Further analysis revealed that Emma Richardson was not Caldwell's first target. Investigators found evidence that he had been stalking 3 other female students over the past 2 years, collecting personal information and photographing them without consent. The other students had graduated or transferred without ever knowing they had been targeted. The investigation uncovered a payment system where Caldwell had been sending money to Brennan in exchange for consultation services on kidnapping techniques. Bank records showed monthly transfers of $500 to $1,000 over an 8-month period, totaling over $6,000 in payments for criminal advice and planning assistance. The most shocking discovery came when investigators found a detailed timeline on Caldwell's computer showing he had planned to kill Emma after collecting the ransom money. The plan included disposing of her body in a remote location and creating false evidence to suggest she had been killed by unknown kidnappers. Caldwell intended to keep the ransom money while eliminating the only witness to his crimes. FBI agents learned that Brennan had been planning to travel to Montana to assist with Emma's murder and body disposal. Phone records showed Brennan had purchased airline tickets to Billings from March 25th, indicating the killing was scheduled to occur within days of the ransom payment deadline. The investigation revealed that Caldwell had been using his academic research privileges to access databases containing personal information about students and their families. He had exploited his position to gather financial data, family backgrounds, and security information that facilitated his targeting of potential victims. Digital evidence showed Caldwell had been recording video of Emma during his lectures using hidden cameras installed in the classroom. The recordings focused exclusively on Emma and had been edited to create compilation videos stored on his personal computer. The surveillance had been ongoing for the entire academic year. The most disturbing revelation came when investigators discovered Caldwell had been sharing information about his captive with other members of the online network. He had live-streamed video of Emma in captivity to paying subscribers, turning her suffering into a commercial enterprise. The subscribers had been offering additional payments for specific acts of violence. FBI agents arrested Marcus Brennan at Portland International Airport on March 23rd as he attempted to board a flight to Montana. His luggage contained rope, duct tape, plastic sheeting, and a shovel, confirming his intent to assist with Emma's murder and disposal. Brennan's arrest prevented the planned killing and provided crucial evidence about the conspiracy. The investigation revealed that Caldwell's basement prison had been constructed with advice from other network members who had experience with kidnapping and captivity scenarios. The design included features specifically recommended by individuals who had committed similar crimes in other states. Law enforcement discovered that Emma's kidnapping was intended to be a test case for a larger operation. Caldwell and his associates had been planning to expand their activities to include multiple victims and had identified several other universities as potential hunting grounds for future abductions. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Montana filed federal charges against Professor David Caldwell on March 25, 2024. The charges included kidnapping, conspiracy to commit murder, human trafficking, and use of interstate commerce to facilitate violent crimes. Each charge carried potential sentences ranging from life imprisonment to death. Marcus Brennan was charged with conspiracy to commit kidnapping and murder, along with interstate transportation in aid of racketeering. His cooperation with federal prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence provided crucial testimony about the network of criminals involved in planning Emma's abduction and murder. Emma Richardson was found alive in Caldwell's basement on March 24th when FBI agents executed a search warrant on his property. She had been held captive for 9 days and required immediate medical attention for dehydration and psychological trauma. Her rescue occurred just hours before Caldwell's planned timeline for her murder. The prosecution's case relied heavily on digital evidence including the photographs, videos, and communication records found on Caldwell's computers. Federal prosecutors argued that the extensive planning and coordination with other criminals demonstrated the premeditated nature of his crimes and the ongoing threat he posed to public safety. Caldwell hired prominent criminal defense attorney Robert Harrison, who attempted to negotiate a plea agreement to avoid the death penalty. However, prosecutors refused to accept any plea that did not include a life sentence without possibility of parole. Given the severity of the crimes and the potential for additional victims, the trial began on September 15, 2024, with jury selection, taking 4 days due to extensive media coverage of the case. The prosecution's opening statement characterized Caldwell as a predator who had exploited his position of trust to target vulnerable students for his personal gratification and financial gain. Emma Richardson testified for 2 days about her captivity experience, describing the conditions in Caldwell's basement prison and the threats he had made about her future. Her testimony provided crucial evidence about Caldwell's state of mind and his intentions regarding her ultimate fate. Digital forensics. Experts testified about the extensive evidence found on Caldwell's computers, including the surveillance videos, planning documents, and communications with co-conspirators. The technical evidence demonstrated the systematic nature of his stalking and the professional level of planning involved in the kidnapping. The defense strategy focused on challenging Caldwell's mental competency and arguing that his actions were the result of psychological illness rather than criminal intent. Defense psychiatrists testified about Caldwell's social isolation and claimed he suffered from delusional disorders that impaired his judgment. Prosecution witnesses included other female students who testified about inappropriate behavior they had experienced in Caldwell's classes. Their testimony established a pattern of boundary violations and obsessive behavior toward young women under his academic authority. The jury deliberated for 6 days before returning guilty verdicts on all charges. The evidence of premeditation, conspiracy, and the imminent threat to Emma's life convinced jurors that Caldwell posed an ongoing danger to society and deserved the maximum penalties available under federal law. Patricia Anderson sentenced Caldwell to life in prison without possibility of parole on the kidnapping charges, plus additional consecutive sentences for the conspiracy and trafficking charges. The total sentence ensured he would never be eligible for release from federal custody. The Caldwell case exposed dangerous vulnerabilities in university systems and the potential for trusted authority figures to exploit their positions for criminal purposes. Emma Richardson's survival and rescue prevented what would have been one of the most heinous crimes in Montana's history and dismantled a network of criminals operating across state lines. Professor David Caldwell was transferred to a DX Florence, the federal supermax prison in Colorado, where he serves his life sentence in solitary confinement. His academic credentials were revoked, and Northern State University implemented new policies for monitoring faculty-student interactions and reporting suspicious behavior. Marcus Brennan received a 25-year sentence in exchange for his cooperation with federal authorities. His testimony led to the arrest and prosecution of 6 other individuals involved in the human trafficking network, resulting in additional convictions and the rescue of 3 other kidnapping victims in different states. Emma Richardson required extensive psychological counseling and medical treatment following her rescue. She transferred to a different university to complete her education and has become an advocate for campus safety and victims' rights. Her family established a foundation to support kidnapping survivors and fund university security improvements. Northern State University faced multiple lawsuits from Emma's family and other students who had been unknowingly stalked by Caldwell. The university agreed to settlements totaling over $2 million and implemented comprehensive reforms to prevent similar incidents, including mandatory background checks and surveillance of faculty computer usage. The case prompted legislative changes in Montana and other states requiring universities to report faculty misconduct to law enforcement agencies. New laws also established mandatory training programs for university staff to recognize signs of predatory behavior and stalking among faculty members. The investigation revealed that similar networks of criminals were operating at universities across the country, using academic settings as hunting grounds for potential victims. Federal authorities launched Operation Campus Shield to identify and prosecute individuals involved in targeting college students for violent crimes. Emma's case demonstrates the importance of trusting instincts about suspicious behavior and reporting concerns to appropriate authorities. The anonymous gifts and unusual attention she received were warning signs that could have led to earlier intervention if properly recognized and reported. The digital evidence in this case highlighted both the dangers and opportunities presented by modern technology. While Caldwell used technology to stalk and plan his crimes, the same digital tools ultimately provided the evidence needed to convict him and save his victim's life. Questions remain about how many other students may have been targeted by trusted authority figures and whether current safety measures are adequate to protect vulnerable populations in academic settings. Emma Richardson's courage in surviving her ordeal and testifying against her captor helped ensure that justice was served and future victims were protected.